It's my nerd world. Welcome to it. I'm your host, Jon Justice, and holy cow, do we have a show this week. Oh my gosh. So, Iger-Con took place. I'll explain. We have details, kind of, but we'll run through all of it. I have theories, many theories, all the theories about the footage that was shown to the Disney investors this week. And then I have some other theories as well, plus a ton of listener feedback that I did not have a chance to get to last week. I'll explain. It's a little bit confusing. Want to mention, too, that I have a special produced piece and a promotion running for my sci-fi novel, Embark, this week. The lowest price that you can get it for. The ebook is 99 cents, paperback $11.99, and there's some specials depending on which one you buy, and if you're looking to get the audiobook narrated by me. The follow-up to Embark is almost done, so I'll have all the details at the end of this week's show. Let's get to it.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My nerd world.
Just let it in.
So last week, I had the privilege of being on with Girls with Sabers, and it was so much fun. I can't even tell you. I really did have a great time. I've been on with Girls with Sabers. I've been on with Zach and the Knights of Vader, and I just get such a kick going on other people's podcasts. And I've mentioned this before, and I won't get into all the nonsense with it, but it's just because of what I do, and I do all the talking. It's just a lot of fun for me to go on other shows and have people like ask me questions and be able to go back and forth about Star Wars. But here's the deal. So I usually enjoy Apothic Red as my go-to wine, and I usually enjoy some on the weekends, and I didn't have a lot on Friday night. And I had this little teeny tiny bit of a headache, just the slightest bit of a headache on Saturday. And didn't bother me at all. Wasn't having any issue when I was recording the podcast with Girls with Sabers. And for some reason, when I got done recording that podcast, this migraine came on. And I used to have this a lot in the past. I've been through 2 open heart surgeries. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I had a heart attack back in 2009, and I had a bicuspid heart valve. I was born with a birth defect and an ascending aortic aneurysm, and through the course of a couple of years, I ended up having 2 open heart surgeries. I'm fine now, but ever since then, I don't get headaches anymore. Now, all that being said, I ended up getting this migraine after I did the podcast. I really wanted to do my podcast afterwards, and so I did, but I was suffering through last week's podcast with the migraine, so I had to keep stopping and starting the show, and I so appreciate everybody that emailed and enjoyed the show, man, because I personally thought it was an absolute wreck. And I didn't get through all the listener feedback last week either. So, next time I'm going to wait. I really was so jacked up on talking Star Wars after talking with Girls with Sabers. I didn't want to wait. And so, if you listened to last week's show, or if you do listen to episode 161, and it sounds a little weird, that's the reason why. I was just suffering from the worst flipping migraine ever. All right. So we've got just a lot to get to, on the show this week. We still don't have a title. And I have a theory. I have another theory about this, by the way, and I'll share this with you in just a moment. But we're going to run through what has been shared, and I just got new information. Like, just I'm looking at it right now. I haven't even read it yet. I just got new information about the footage that was shown at Iger-Con. And for those that don't know what Iger-Con, so Bob Iger is the CEO of Disney, and he holds these investors meetings a couple times a year. Well, this was the investors meeting where it wasn't a phone call, even though you could listen in. This was an actual live event. And it took place in St. Louis with a huge crowd of people. And every year they've done these, they've shown footage of their movie slate coming up. And last time they had one of these a couple years ago. They showed Rogue One footage and they showed Last Jedi footage. And this time they showed Episode 9 footage. Bob Iger said that they were still in editing. And J.J. Abrams had put something special together for the group there. So I have details of what was shown at this investors meeting on Thursday. So I'm going to share with you my thoughts on it, let you know what was shown. And again, I have some brand new details right now in front of me that just dropped in regards to this. Also, I have a theory about something, and it relates to not necessarily why we haven't gotten a title, but specifically why we've been starved of information. And I'll go ahead and just share this really quick before we get to the leaks. I think there's a lot of different reasons why. I think one of the reasons why we haven't gotten a title, and one of the reasons why Disney hasn't given us any information officially, is one, like we've talked about in the past, because of what happened with Solo, they're really trying to starve the fan base. And I imagine one of the... If the rumors are true about J.J. Abrams and his mystery box, and that's just not, us as fans sort of injecting that, then I wonder if part of J.J. Abrams coming back into the fold to do Episode 9 was that he wanted to have some control over the marketing. I also think it has a lot to do with, and this is kind of coupled with what I said a moment ago, they're kind of one and the same. I think it has a lot to do with the slate that Disney does have coming out. Captain Marvel opened up this week. I went and saw it last night. I really, really enjoyed it. I actually thought it was a fun space romp, almost borderline space opera. It was very much a 90s throwback. And in some ways, it seemed a little, what's the word I'm looking for? You know the scene on Mimban and Solo where it looks like like they cut back on the budget because of the reshoots, and so on Mimban, when they're on the ground, everything's smoked out. You can't really see the terrain very well around them. There was some moments in Captain Marvel that were that way, and I thought that it really lent itself well to the movie. But we had a ton of discussion on my radio show here in Twin Cities News Talk in Minneapolis this week about Captain Marvel and about the Avengers and how much people are looking forward to these movies. I think that Disney understands the power of the fandom and the power of the discussion and is, in my opinion, and I have no evidence of this at all, in my opinion, they're trying to capitalize on the fandom conversation and the narratives that develop within the fandom, and rather than take attention away from Captain Marvel leading into Avengers right now, right? They'd rather just let it sit for a while and get everybody pumped up. That might run contrary to Celebration coming up here in a few weeks, given the fact that the expectation is we're going to get a teaser. If we don't, I think they're going to riot. But I think that what's happening here is they know that Avengers is going to make all the money. And people are going to go see it. But right now with Captain Marvel, they want to continue to develop that buzz. And that movie is so directly connected into Avengers Endgame, it's not even funny. And so that's why I think we've been starved of information. Still don't have a title, and I think that's part of it. And I also can't help but wonder, based off of the information that we have about this behind-the-scenes footage, I can't help but wonder, like I said last week, if the title doesn't lend itself to what needs to be seen in the footage in the trailer to offer some context. I think the title is going to be very revealing. And I think that people have been off the mark on balance of the Force and things like this. I think this title is going to directly relate to something of the past. I think the title of Episode 9 is going to deal with and is going to lay out, very succinctly in a few words, how this movie is going to tie the whole saga together. And I think what we saw in the footage, or what was seen in this footage at Iger-Con, is indicative, or it is leading down this road that Kylo's on a mission and he's going to be revisiting the past of the other films in search of something when they talk about this MacGuffin that we keep hearing. All right, so I got a lot of other stuff to get to, especially with the leaked information. One more quick comment, and then I'll get to the leaked stuff, because I know that's the most important stuff, and that's probably why you downloaded the podcast in the first place. But I think another reason why we haven't gotten anything is because we actually did get a lot of stuff. Now, I know the footage that was seen at Iger-Con, that's just the dumb name that the fans give it, the shareholders meeting. I know the footage that was seen at the shareholders meeting didn't provide any evidence of this, but I think Batu's in episode 9. And I think a big reason why Disney hasn't given us anything for episode 9 is, one, they wanted to promote Galaxy's Edge, obviously, but two, Batu and Galaxy's Edge is in 9, so we actually have seen a bunch of 9. We know the TIE echelon that's going to be on display in Galaxy's Edge is going to be in a movie. Most likely it'll be in episode 9. And we know that the events that take place on Batu are supposed to happen between episode 8 and 9. I can't help but wonder if Hondo is going to be in episode 9. And so, and also the special figures. There's a mountain trooper, First Order trooper, and then Captain Pyre, the gold First Order officer, or captain, whatever, officer, that's in Resistance. There's also, along with Kylo Ren, that's available as an exclusive Black Series set of figures. I think, even just as background characters, that those characters could potentially be in 9. So we may have actually gotten a lot to look at that's going to be in 9. We just didn't realize it as a bunch of fans. All right, so that's just my theory. We'll know here in December, or at least maybe in the next 6 weeks when the trailer drops, if they end up showing some footage that shows, our heroes or our villains on 9. But let's get to the big news this week, and that is the footage that was shown. People on this planet, other than J.J. Abrams and those that shot it, have seen actual footage of Episode 9, and let's talk about what it is that we've learned.
The hyperdrive is leaking.
So first, what I'm going to give you is the brand new piece of information that I just got my hands on. And this comes from Twitter, an individual named Matthew Wasennut. Says this. This is more clarification detail about what we previously heard, which I'll explain here in a moment, specifically about a bit of dialogue. 9 footage included quick shots of all the main characters. Poe, Finn, Rey, then Kylo looking down. And then we see he's looking in a container of some kind, opening to reveal it has Vader's helmet. Rey says, it's too dangerous. I'm going alone. Poe then says, we're going together. We see Poe, Rey, Finn, Chewbacca all settling into the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. Star Wars 9 only had a behind-the-scenes reel with many shots, including one of the Tantive 4, Lando, and the new droid next to BB-8 that looks like the megaphone on the wheel, confirming a recent character design leak. Now, this is the second bit of information. The other bit of information that we have is a little bit longer and more extensive, and I'll get to that in just a moment. The Rey, Finn, Poe, and Chewbacca in the Millennium Falcon, I cannot wait to see that shot. Certainly, that would be reminiscent of seeing Chewie, Han, Luke, and Leia in the Imperial shuttle as they went flying off to Endor in Return of the Jedi. And I imagine that this is going to be an indication that J.J. Abrams is really going to zero in on the main characters, and this is going to be their movie, where they've kind of been separated, right, throughout these films, brought together in certain places. J.J. is going to bring the whole group together, and they're going to be sort of the focal point of this film, as opposed to being part, as they have been in the other movies. Okay, so let's get to the other information that was leaked. And I basically just cut and pasted a bunch of stuff that was said yesterday after the marketing meeting. So here you go. We saw a blockade runner in an abandoned-looking hangar. An explosion knocking stormtroopers, I'm assuming First Order troopers, in a starship hangar bay. Kylo Ren is in a white room looking at a Vader helmet. MakingStarWars.net had a report about Kylo having a new ship and it having white and red accents. There's a little bit of speculation that maybe Kylo was actually on the blockade runner. Now, if it is the blockade runner from the original Star Wars, from A New Hope, that's pretty significant, and we'll get to more of that. And the one, obviously, that we saw at the end of Rogue One. Okay, and again, Rey, Finn, Poe in the Falcon cockpit, Lando briefly, Rey with Chewie's bowcaster, Finn in some abandoned-looking ship hangar, no mask for Kylo in that scene. Kylo, was in a room like in the Rebel Blockade Runner, in that kind of style, bright white. He's looking down as a box container opens to reveal the charred helmet. Again, not wearing the mask. We saw a marketplace scene with Rey walking through some aliens. One individual was shown some of the photographs and design work for Batuu in that marketplace, and they said, no, it didn't look like that. I believe it have it in the notes here. So it doesn't appear that the footage that we saw, that was seen, I keep saying we saw, but that was seen on Thursday is Batuu right now, but obviously doesn't mean that it's not in the movie. White room kind of looked like the interior of the Rebel Blockade Runner, that bright white look. Scott says that white room we saw Kylo in could be hearkening back to Vader's meditation chamber. It's not a bad idea. Might be something in the structure of that room that's similar to what we saw in the footage. Now, here's what I'm going to throw out there real quick. And this has happened before. So, MakingStarWars.net had the report that Kylo's got a new ship. And the new ship is white and red. The footage that we saw on Thursday, multiple reports, is the Blockade Runner. And they're saying it's the one from Star Wars, and it's white and red. Okay, do I have to be the dummy that says, what if Kylo's new ship is the Blockade Runner? So here's my theory, before I get into more of this, okay? Well, let me see what else I got here. At Disney Parks wrote this. Disney Parks reminded me we saw a marketplace scene, Rey walking through with some aliens. He was in a room like the Rebel Blockade. A really cool clip of Daisy doing wire work, jumping, turning, and somersaulting high in the air with a lightsaber. Let's see. Meditation chamber again. Pretty sure the behind the scenes we saw of her doing wire work with a saber in hand. Not the finished footage, but that I can recall, but I could have missed it. Kylo didn't look sad so much as he looked pained. Okay. And then I'm going to get into a couple of comments that people put up on Reddit. So here's my deep theory, pulling it out of thin air, going off of what we know and the possibility of how this movie could go and tie everything together again. We know there's supposed to be some kind of MacGuffin, and we'll just kind of go take at face value that the comments that we've heard so far from good sources like MakingStarWars.net are accurate, and that they have said this MacGuffin changes. Like, it starts out as one thing, and then it turns into something else, and it turns into something else. Okay. So, if we piece together, using J.J. Abrams as a roadmap, not so much Rian Johnson, right? And I'm going to talk about that, too, because I was listening to the Star Wars Underworld, and one of the guys on there was making a comment that I kind of disagree with, and I want to share my thoughts on. But if you look at The Force Awakens, because that's where I think you have to focus your attention on to find out where we're going in 9. Because The Last Jedi took place right afterwards. And The Last Jedi was putting our characters through all of these trials and tribulations to get them to a place where we can finish out this trilogy in 9. And that's what I think is really going to set this trilogy apart, that I find so unique. And again, probably one of those reasons why so many people seem to have had such a hard time with it. But you got to focus on The Force Awakens to find out where we're going in 9 because of what I just mentioned. Getting back to Kylo Ren, his motivations. Certainly, those plans are being challenged because of the injection of Rey into his life. That's what girls do. They turn your lives upside down. It's kind of their role and purpose. And we as dudes just go ahead and accept it when we're single and also when we're married. But go back to Kylo Ren and grandfather, right? Feels it again, the pull to the light. Show me again the power of the darkness. So, again, you can read into some speculation. Okay, has the helmet shown him something else? Does the helmet itself bring about a Force ghost or something that guides Kylo Ren? much in the same way that the lightsaber that Rey had the Force back, right? Okay. And then I'll finish what you started. And that's certainly open for debate. We haven't gotten anything clear on what exactly that means for Kylo Ren. Okay, I'll finish what you started. So the comment that was being made on Star Wars Underworld was one of the guys was saying, well, him having the helmet back and going back to Vader's helmet again, it seems like he's done with all that. If you look at the commentary and what he said to Rey, let the past die, kill it if you have to. That's the only way to find out what it is you're truly going to be. And he destroyed the helmet, then why would he bring it back? And why would the Vader helmet mean anything again? I interpret that completely differently. I interpret that as, no, he wants to let the past die. It's not the past it's not the past yesterday. It's not the past with Vader's helmet and him wanting to finish what he started. It's the past before that. It's the past of his family, right? The First Order rose from the dark side. You did not. That's what he's talking about. In my opinion, he smashes the helmet because he's ticked off that Snoke humiliated him. Take that ridiculous thing off. He did it out of anger and rage. I didn't. And again, it's all open to interpretation. I'd have to go back and watch the director's commentary from Rian Johnson because I don't remember if he talks about this, but one of my favorite moments in The Last Jedi is when Kylo Ren just goes on that destructive warpath and just starts banging that helmet against the side of the elevator lift until it's just sitting there in a pile of ruin. I think he did that just out of pure anger, not because he didn't want to wear it anymore, because he was just pissed. That scene makes me laugh, by the way, because, and I if I mentioned this before, I apologize, but it cracks me up when the elevator doors open, he looks at those two First Order officers, and he's like, ready my ship. Well, who's to say those weren't, caterers? Like, the way they look at each other, it makes me think, hey, man, we're just here to grab Snoke's gold lame. We're doing his dry cleaning. I don't know what you're talking about. It really, and that's the way that I read it, because I read that as sort of an extension of what happens in The Force Awakens when Rey escapes on Starkiller and the stormtroopers come by and he's just going into his fit of Rey rage. Rey rage. Ooh, I like that. Rey rage. When he's going off in his Rey rage. He does that twice. No. He doesn't. The first time he's going off because they got away, and it's not until afterwards the dude says, "What girl?" and he pulls him across the room and almost gives him an end game. But I like Rey rage. I may have to title. No, I won't title the podcast. All right. So back to what I was saying. And so this conversation around him, letting the past die. No, the past die was his past with his father and his mother, and him wanting to become what he truly wants to be. And I'm, again, convinced that Kylo doesn't know what he wants, right? He thinks he wants one thing, but it's not. It's Rey. That's what he wants. That's what he really is after. He's after acceptance. It's love, man. It's always love, right? Love's the most important thing. All right, so let's get back into some of the behind-the-scene footage and what this could mean. So the helmet, the importance of the helmet, the MacGuffin, I don't know how it all ties together, but I find it interesting that we're back with the helmet. He's on this ship, black and white. He's on a white and red ship. That's his new ship. It's supposed to be pretty cool. What if it's the Blockade Runner? Oh, my gosh. Kylo Ren flying around the galaxy, searching for old artifacts. What if, for some reason, Kylo Ren starts retracing the steps of his grandfather? That's what has me excited, right? What if he goes on his own sort of spiritual force journey? And again, without knowing where they're going with it, I just got this idea popped into my head that if the Blockade Runner's appearance in and of itself is hugely significant, and if he's on it with Vader's helmet, we never did really get an answer of how he got the helmet in the first place. Why he got the helmet in the first place. He had to go back to Endor. So maybe if this is a sort of finish what you started, it's also a him finishing what he started. Right? He had to go get that helmet at some point in time. And what if he ends up going and retracing his steps and following in his grandfather's footsteps? And here's the big one. What if he ends up going back to Mustafar? That's, yes. Vader's castle. Man, that to me, and again, historical documents, whatever these movies are, I accept that this is what happened. But as a content creator and in the final act of writing the follow-up to Embark, which I'm so excited for, by the way, I swear, the lack of Star Wars information that I am starved for has provided such the creative spark in my mind writing the follow-up to Embark, because the feeling that I get finishing a scene or a chapter, writing the follow-up to my first science fiction space opera book, is the same feeling that I get when I get new Star Wars information. It's really, really just really satisfying. The creation of content, or being able to, sit back and go, oh, I really love that. It's just that I dig it. So creating content and looking at the possibilities here, that to me is really, really intriguing. Okay, so let me get to a couple of comments from some individuals who have made comments on Reddit about this behind the scenes footage. Got a few more things I want to share with you, and we're going to dive right into the listener feedback this week, because there's a lot I didn't get to last week. Somebody made this comment: the blockade runner in an abandoned hangar sounds the most intriguing to me. It'd be cool to see the Resistance refurbishing old Rebellion ships like B-Wings. I love B-Wings so much. It'd be great to see them in action again. Somebody else commented, if I had to take a guess, considering the possible appearance of Tatooine per other leaks, a blockade runner in an abandoned hangar, Vader's helmet making a return, is Kylo Ren trying to revisit places and events from the past. And again, I'm not the only one going down this road. I had popped into, when I first heard the comments, that's the first thing my mind went to, and somebody else was right there with me. Perhaps this ties into how the movie is attempting to bring all 9 movies into conclusion. So again, this is a thing that's people are pointing to now. Also, and this is the one thing I didn't think of that somebody pointed out on Reddit. Also, there's reports of Luke's X-Wing and helmet. Take that for what you will. And we mentioned that last week. And on Making Star Wars, Jason had made a comment about how somebody had gone and gotten footage of this old T-65 X-Wing. I don't think there's been confirmation yet if it was specifically Luke's. There was talk of a flashback. But again, this idea that Kylo Ren, for some reason, is going around and getting these old things. Now, let me add one more little thing here, okay? If this is true, it's not the first time we've seen it. Now, this is a stretch, and this might be subliminally why people are gravitating towards this idea. But if you've watched Star Wars All-Stars, which is hysterical and really good, that's one of the storylines. Captain Phasma is going around and getting stuff for Kylo Ren. One of the episodes is his getting Anakin Skywalker's old Jedi Starfighter from the Clone Wars. Not the one from Revenge of the Sith, but the one from the Clone Wars. Now, that would tell me that they're not going to go the same route, right? That would tell me that that's not the avenue they're going to go if they've shown it in a cartoon. But if they're like, hey, play with this idea with the kids, right? And again, I mean, if they do this, it's incredibly clever marketing. But we know for a fact that the reason why they're doing the Galaxy of Adventures is that they are trying to introduce the original trilogy to a really, really young generation of people. And they're doing it in what I believe is brilliant. Taking that original dialogue and sound effects and putting it to animation that appeals to toddlers, really young kids. I've seen videos up on YouTube of kids just memorized by these quick 1 and 2 minute clips. And I don't know about you, but the audio part of it really sticks in your head. So when you get older, if you're a kid growing up on those Galaxy of Adventures, right? And then you get older and you start watching the old original trilogy and you hear that audio, that's going to trigger that. It's brilliant. And I'm just kind of going, are they going that meta deep? And did they plant this idea of Kylo Ren going around and picking up old Anakin Skywalker artifacts maybe even Luke artifacts for some reason. And again, that's the missing key in all this. What I'm struggling, and maybe if you want to drop me a comment on YouTube, feel free to go ahead and do so. But I don't know what the motivation would be or what the rationale or reasoning would be. That's probably the one thing that I'm most curious about. Is like, okay, if he is going around and getting stuff, why would he be going around and getting stuff? All right, so before we dive into, and I really want to hear your thoughts on what you've heard from not just this show, but other shows as well. I know Steele Saunders and the Steel Wars podcast, he's going to be interviewing, it should be out sometime today, the individual that first posted the information on Twitter about what he saw at the shareholders meeting. So I can't imagine that he's going to have much more to say than what he tweeted, but Steele Saunders does a really, really good job with his podcast. And if there was anybody other than me that was going to be interviewing a person like that, it would be him. He knows how to kind of draw that information out from people. But would love to know what your theories are about this and where you think this is all leading to. I feel like if you've watched the show Survivor, I feel like what happened on Thursday was it was day 25. I've been playing Survivor and I just got 4 ounces of rice. That's how starved I've been. Okay, couple of other things. Somebody raised. Oh, it was on Making Star Wars. Jason Ward did. They raised the idea that what if the T-65 X-wing that they got pictures of, what if it was Dennis Lawson's? What if it was Wedge's and he's making a return, which I think is possible. I'll tell you what I want in my fantasy of fantasies. If Rey flies a T-65 X-wing fighter. I might just that's peace out. I'm done. That's it. If I can see that, I just can't even. I can't even imagine. That would be the level of geekdom that would just be amazing. But it reminded me. I went back and looked at the Force Awakens art book, and one of the most compelling pieces of art in that thing, man. And if they did this. I just think it would be incredible. There's this huge 2-page piece of art. And then there's another piece of art on a subsequent page that shows the aftermath. But it's essentially, it's concept art of Rey in a T-65 X-Wing. The cockpit canopy is gone. She's flying the X-Wing, leaning up with her lightsaber, and she's ripping holes. She's tearing with her lightsaber holes underneath a Star Destroyer. And then it's a 2-page layout. If I could get that as a poster, oh my gosh, I'd love to. It is just such an incredible image. And then you turn to the next page, and you can actually see they have like shots of, and obviously it's in atmosphere. So there's shots of Star Destroyers. Did I say Star Destroyers or did I say TIE Fighters? I meant to say Star Destroyers. If I said TIE Fighters, I apologize. It's hard to self-edit when you're just kind of going off. But so it's her in an X-Wing out of the cockpit with the lightsaber up in the air, and she's ripping holes in Star Destroyers. And on the subsequent page, it shows these Star Destroyers there with all these holes and all this, mechanical crap and stuff falling out of it. It just looks iconic. And again, go back and look at the art book if you have it. Because I do think there's some clues in there. There's a lot of red. We know there's supposed to be some red stormtroopers in the new movie, or some First Order troopers in the movie that we're supposed to see. There was a T-shirt that was shown that's going to be sold at Galaxy's Edge, or at least in Disneyland. It shows Rey in a familiar stance as she was for some of the concepts, or some of the promotional photos from The Last Jedi, although her clothes are a little bit different. But the lightsaber had an effect around it, as if it was unstable. So there's been some questions about whether or not that was done for just the T-shirt to sort of replicate a glowing effect, because it was more of a one-color print, so you wouldn't be able to kind of get the effect you get of the lightsaber in something that was full color. So there was some speculation on some of the Galaxy's Edge merch as well that I thought was interesting. It could have just been a promotional shot, because it is. The stance that she's holding the lightsaber is really, really reminiscent of one that was used quite a bit for the Last Jedi. So if you get a chance to search, maybe I'll try to find it and throw it in the post for this podcast. But people have been talking about it and pointing it out, and I wanted to point it out to you. One last thing, and then we'll get to all the listener feedback, because there's a lot of stuff in the listener feedback that relates to what we've been talking about on the show so far. Sat down and watched. I haven't been able to finish it just because it's been a busy couple of days. I will this weekend because we have another blizzard rolling through, and holy cow, do we have enough snow already? Be it as it may, I sat down. I've been watching the Phantom Menace, and I say this a lot, and I'm gonna keep doing this PSA because I think it's important, right? And this is not me telling you how to live your life. It's just a suggestion. Put everything away. I can't express it enough, man. I sat down. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my iPad. I didn't have a fidget spinner just because I get fidgety. And I sat down and I just watched. The Phantom Menace. And somebody made a comment today on Reddit. I got to share. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot I got to share something with you too. Okay. Don't let me forget. Something happened on Twitter, and I want to share it with you. I totally forgot about this. Anyway, I've been watching The Phantom Menace, and somebody made a comment about nostalgia kicking in for The Phantom Menace, and I had that movie memorized, right? Thoroughly enjoying it. I mean, really, just thoroughly enjoying it. And I just got done seeing Captain Marvel, which I thought was great, but it's not Star Wars. There's just something uniquely special and different about this universe that we get to visit now in all of these films and all of these different forms of media. I feel so blessed in my life, and so much of that between God and my family and my boys and my job is just surrounded by Star Wars. Okay, so before we get to listener feedback, again, we've got a lot to get to. I do have to share something with you, and I completely forgot about it, but I was reminded of it in the middle of doing the show this week, and remembered that I did want to talk about this on the show, so let's go ahead and get to it.
This is not going to go the way you think.
No, it is not going to go the way you think. So I broke a rule that I have. And that rule is, especially when it comes to Twitter, usually I go by your basic military standards of you don't fire until you're fired upon. And so on Twitter, I rarely go and comment negatively, okay, or sarcastically for the most part. I'll do fun tweets or retweets or commenting and positive tweets, but rarely do I go the challenging route, right? I guess is what I'm saying. If I'm not tagged in a tweet and somebody's being negative on something, I usually 9 times out of 10 do not respond. Well, at the My Nerd World, right? That's the Twitter handle for the podcast and for the book writing. The at Jon Justice is my personal account, and I do a little bit there as well, obviously. But on at the My Nerd World, I kind of, I bend the rules a little bit. So somebody had tweeted this. This was on Tuesday, and I wanted to share it with you, and then I'll tell you what my response was, and it was their response. Now, this individual's, and I'm not going to say who they are. If you go into my feed, you can find out who they are. But obviously, somebody who is, I think they're connected within the industry, not a blue check mark, but not a bot by any stretch or an anonymous individual, okay? It just seemed like got a lot of followers, tweets a lot, seemed like a legitimate Twitter account. This is what they tweeted. Mark my words. The Last Jedi will literally be written out of Star Wars canon in our lifetimes. Disney knows it wasn't supposed to go down like this and have already quietly admitted it. Episode 9 might not even be good, but you can bet your ass that it will be the biggest apology ever. Okay, so I saw that, and it's ridiculous. On like every level, it's ridiculous. So I was feeling sarcastic and sassy, salty, and I decided to respond. This is what I wrote. So again, they wrote, just so I can repeat, Let me get it again. Mark my words, The Last Jedi will literally be written out of Star Wars canon in our lifetimes. Disney knows it wasn't supposed to go down like this and have already quietly admitted it. Episode 9 might not even be good, but you can bet your ass it'll be the biggest apology ever. So here's what I responded with. Mark my words, this tweet will not age well. What is there to apologize for? The movie made a boatload of money. It's just as divisive as Empire Strikes Back was when it was released, and people are still talking about it a year after its release. Art is subjective. Good art is often divisive. All right, well, this really got the individual going. Okay, so they responded with this. The truth is, the general public, the genuine fans, none will ever accept this SJW-infused agenda of self-hate, false guilt, and slanderous crimes of bogus women hate. They are on the wrong side of history, and in the end, this will be proven as self-evident. The cult of SJW's NPCs. Okay, so I decided to take the bait, and I responded again, and I said, sure, people don't like it. I don't deny that. But I'm on record saying it's a masterpiece, in my opinion. That already proves you're incorrect. Because they made a comment, this might have been a response. There was a subsequent tweet they wrote where they said nobody likes the movie, right? And I was like, well, that's not true. I do. Okay. And the numbers on a large scale also speak differently. No one is saying you or anyone has to like The Last Jedi, but Disney is clearly happy with Rian Johnson. And I have this, I've saved this screen grab, and it's the box office numbers. You know, the 1,332,539,889 dollars. That's international and domestic. 91% Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 85% Metacritic score, highest grossing film of 2017, 4 Academy Award nominations, an A cinema score. 89% said they surveyed and liked it. And again, it's fine if you want to say people don't like it, but I just take a huge issue with people making these blanket assertions that the movie isn't enjoyed and liked, and then I'm not a true fan if I don't like it. Okay. So then they went on to write this. I stopped commenting, Adam. Then they went on and write this. I would gladly accept a genuine opinion of yours as why you liked it. The problem is that I refuse to accept your opinion demanded of you by your overlords. I'm sorry, but this is what the reality is. Enjoy, and then another tweet. Enjoy the paycheck. A man can be bought into self-lying to accept the spoon-fed delusion as truth. I am 100% certain you do not actually believe your carefully rehearsed propaganda. Personally, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. And now on with Captain Marvel. Do these people, are they serious? Do they really truly believe that, or are they just tooling? Right? Look, they're just trying to get a rise out of people. And now that I've shared it with you, I'm actually going to go ahead and just delete the tweets altogether. But and I'm going to do it right now while we're on the phone. Let's see. Oh, wait, did I miss one? I think I missed one. I think there was one more. Oh, this is what it was. Best Star Wars movie? Okay. You're a legitimate actual plant. No interest in further discussion. Not an actual person. I honestly, I do not understand. I just simply do not understand. I cannot relate. I just think it's fascinating that people actually think that. Like, if those are true, legitimate, honest to the good Lord in heaven feelings, wow. Talk about delusional. That somebody would have to be a paid plant or a shill, right? I'm a shill now. I don't understand. What is life? Twitter is so good in so many ways, but oh my gosh, it is so bad in so many ways.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
As always, you can email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Leave a comment on YouTube as well. Got a lot of listener feedback to get to this week. Some from the most recent podcast, and again, some from the podcast 2 weeks ago. But we'll start off with a friend of the show, Craig Foss. makes a comment first about my writing in my sci-fi book, because I often joke about how I'm a horrible writer, and that's why I wrote the book, is because I wanted to challenge myself. Obviously, I can't be too bad. The reviews have been really good, and people seem to really enjoy the book. So, and I'm really excited about the second one. I'm more excited, honestly, about the second Embark book, the follow-up. And it's probably because I'm right in the middle of the story and these characters. And I really think it's fun and nonstop, kind of a nonstop roller coaster ride. But he writes this: I am amused that you say you're a bad writer. Have you ever read Tom Clancy book? Yes, I have. I listened to a number of TC books and thought he was a good writer. Then I read The Dragon and the Bear. I don't think Tom Clancy knows what a sentence is. He just connects everything with semicolons. Yeah, you know what? Tom Clancy's allowed to do that, though, because he's Tom Clancy. I was watching Return of the Jedi last Sunday, and I wonder if you've ever watched what the guys behind Lando are doing in the final battle. I think the director told them to do something, so they're flipping switches and trying to look busy. Of course, we know that they're not doing anything, since we've seen the Falcon in many battles, and no one is sitting back there doing any switch flipping. I like watching the extras, what the extras are doing in these movies and TV shows, because every once in a while you can see an extra doing something funny or weird. The best is an old TV show called Rawhide, where a young Clint Eastwood is a writer in the background, and he steals many scenes. Yeah, a lot of times I watch these movies so often that I'll pick up on somebody in the background and I can't unsee it. There's a lot of that in the pod racing scene for the Phantom Menace. And again, only because I've been watching it. There's a lot of background characters that just kind of do a bunch of weird and wacky stuff just to kind of keep motion. And here's one I'll ruin for you. And I shouldn't wipe out because we got a lot of listener comment. But here's one I'll ruin for you. When they arrive on Dakar in The Force Awakens, I can no longer unsee this. Okay. But after the attack on Maz's castle, on Takodana, and the X-Wing flies overhead, and I love that shot. I just love X-Wings landing. I just think that's so cool looking. When they land, notice how many people are running around. It's ridiculous. Like, there's no reason. And I know why J.J. Abrams does it. He does it to keep just the frame moving, right? To keep everybody look busy, because you're focused on the characters. But if you look at all the ancillary characters, it is hysterical. People are just running. Like, there's no reason. It'd be like if you went to a mall or a place that still existed. And people were, or like if you're at the grocery store and there's people just like running through Walmart or Target. Right? It's just that you can't unsee it once you see it. The other one that J.J. Abrams does a lot, and I think I've talked about this before, because he does this in all his movies. He does the snap turn and intense stare. There's a moment when Starkiller Base fires right after Hux' speech. And the girl who played Finale in Ready Player One, and she was also the, I forgot what the name was, but the villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp. She's in that shot, and she does the quick turn and look at the camera, and he does it in all his movies. It's so funny to me. All right, let's get back to Craig's email. I know you're invested in Reylo, but I wonder if you've considered that the end of the Skywalker saga may mean the end of the Skywalkers. Kill off Leia and Kylo. The Last Jedi still promoted Rey and Finn. They have a long way to go, and they want the fans to accept a Kylo redemption. How about the MacGuffin being the search for Han Solo? Yes, he lives, even though he was stabbed through the chest with a lightsaber into a bottomless abyss. Oh, yeah, and he talks about my producer because she always jokes about how he's still alive. Have you ever counted how many abysses are in Star Wars? And then what movie is going to be the top grosser this year? Captain Marvel, Endgame, Star Wars. So we'll back up real quick. On that one, probably Avengers Endgame. I think it's going to be a close tie between Avengers Endgame and Star Wars at the end of the year. It's really going to come down to how well is Episode 9 received and how is the promotion leading up to it, and not having seen anything yet, it's impossible to make that judgment. But I know how much hype is around Endgame right now. Getting back to Reylo really quick, first off, I don't think Han Solo's dead. We're just going to leave it at that. But in terms of Reylo and the end of the Skywalker saga, I want to mention that when it comes to Reylo, being the hopeless romantic that I am, I'm cool if that ends up happening. I personally, for me, believe that Reylo can mean many things. A redemption of Ben Solo and Rey being the catalyst of that. I also think that it's probably a 50-50 shot that not that Ben gets redeemed, but that the Reylo aspect comes into full effect, right? Again, not being the content creator, I just don't know how to look at that, and I will be fine with whatever they do. If there isn't any kind of version of Reylo, I'm sure I'll end up loving the movie. And again, looking at it through the eyes of this is just what happened, I'm willing to accept that. All right, the Color of Caramel writes this. I had one more. There was one more thing that I wanted to mention. Oh, yeah. Return of the Jedi. Somebody made a great. Was it Steel? Was it Steel Wars? So Steel Saunders had a guest on. Oh, that's right. That's right. Steel Saunders had a guest on who worked on the Phantom Menace. That's what got me wanting to watch the Phantom Menace. And they made a great comment talking about how all the movies are so different. And this person was disappointed with The Last Jedi, but didn't go on like any kind of hate-filled rant. He just said it wasn't really his cup of tea. But that the movies all offer something different for everybody. And he made a comment that he felt that Return of the Jedi, much like I do, is, one of the weaker Star Wars films. But now that you have more, it's okay. Before, it was like Return of the Jedi and that's all you got. That's it. But now we have this other trilogy, and it enhances the viewing experience of the other films that maybe aren't as strong. And I thought that was a really relevant point that I wanted to share. All right, The Color of Caramel. At this point, do you think any Star Wars trilogy movies in the future should be done by one director? I think back in the 80s, whenever one director had a major project that involved great directors, everyone took the time to be on the same page. With this new sequel trilogy between episodes 7 and 8, it doesn't feel consistent. What JJ did with 7 was wonderful. It felt like a Star Wars movie. I don't care what the naysayers think. While episode 8 felt completely different. It had its good moments, but I find myself skipping a lot of the beginning on my DVD just to watch the scenes with Rey and Kylo, Luke and Yoda. Holdo's last stand and the second act with Rey and Kylo on the finalizer leading up to the last act, in the Battle of Crate. I try to be open-minded going into the movie and go by the first impression, so the thing that bugged me about Last Jedi was Rey's lack of training by Luke. Snoke's death, without at least some explanation of where he came from after The Force Awakens, built his character up so thoroughly. The complete switch of Hux's character, and if Luke was going to die, then yes, let him go down in the blaze of glory as the Master Jedi he was. I think it would have calmed down the haters some if Luke would have at least been able to do that. So let me start back at the beginning on this. In terms of one director, it's impossible to know. It really is. I love J.J. Abrams as a director, and if you had said after Force Awakens, would you want J.J. Abrams to do the next two movies without seeing Rian Johnson's, I would have been like, kind of, yeah, right? But now there's no way on God's green earth I'd want that. It's one of those things that you really don't know until after the fact. Sometimes I think that movies that are done by one director, I think David Yates ended up doing a bunch of the Harry Potter movies, I think that ends up being a bit of a mistake. For casual viewers, I think you do have to switch it up. And I won't wipe out completely on The Last Jedi, and I appreciate the comment, The Color of Caramel, but here's the deal. I completely disagree with your assessment here, and that's kind of the point. The art is subjective. For the things that you were, Rey's lack of training by Luke, I didn't need any training by Luke. I thought what he did with her was totally enough for the level of fighting that she had to do in the film. Snoke's character being built up so thoroughly, I didn't feel like it was built up very thoroughly. He was just kind of a hologram there in the background during the film, sort of guiding the other players. In the original trilogy, we didn't even see the Emperor, apart from a hologram, until the very, very last film. Luke going down in the blaze of glory, I thought the way that he went out was exactly the way a Jedi should go out. That was pure 100% Master Jedi moves. In terms of calming the haters down, well, how much time would it have taken to do the things that you were doing? I don't think Hux's character really changed all that much from The Force Awakens to the other movie, except for the fact that it was different writing. He was still Hux, and the interpretation that Rian Johnson had of Hux doing the speech on Starkiller Base was it was over the top and ridiculous, and it was. So to have him go into The Last Jedi and to play off of sort of his over the top caricature of this First Order officer, I completely bought. I say all that not to start an argument, because your opinion is just as valid as mine, but it is to say that art is completely subjective. And in terms of calming the haters down, it doesn't matter. You can't. I'm a strong believer that you can't do that. I don't do that with my radio show. I don't do that with my podcast. I'm as authentic and as genuine as I can possibly be. And I will reach the largest audience that I am capable of reaching by doing that. The risk you run is that you may not be interesting. But if you're not interesting, then people aren't going to find you anyways. But if you want to see what your maximum potential is of creating content, whether it's live content or commentary or even crafting a story, be as authentic and as genuine as you can be. And again, you will reach the biggest audience you're capable of reaching. Rian Johnson did that. The Last Jedi is completely authentic and genuine. And he reached the biggest audience he was capable of reaching. And in the process, he made a group of people really mad. But for those that love it like me, and for a lot of you, it's a worthy trade-off. Otherwise, you kind of get The Force Awakens, where nobody was really talking about it the way we were The Last Jedi a year later. Not even close. And we're still talking about The Last Jedi, for crying out loud. And I'm way more passionate about The Last Jedi than I am The Force Awakens. All right. Athena Gaia says this: the leaks that we talked about on the show a few weeks back sound so cool. I figured they would go back to Jakku when I heard they were filming in the desert. Maybe there is something from Rey's past there to find out more about why her parents left her. Could figuring out Rey's past be the MacGuffin? I'm intrigued about the possibility of bringing back Tatooine. Could there be a flashback to Luke's past there, that he may be relying on Rey and about his early experiences with the Force as part of her continued training? I suspect Kylo and Rey go to Ahch-To at the end of 9 to start their teaching academy for Force sensitive without the caveat that the Jedi had, where they were taken from their families and denied personal connections, and seeing Kylo go to Vader's castle on Mustafar to fix his helmet would be so cool. Part of me wants to see Rey confront him there and bring him back to the light, since it would parallel Anakin's fall to the dark in reverse. Maybe their climax fight could be there. The one thing that I will say about J.J. Abrams, and thank you so much, as always, for the comment, Athea. J.J. Abrams seems like the kind of guy who is probably going to think about the fans more than a Rian Johnson is. All right? So I imagine when they keep talking about being satisfied, and even Oscar Isaac mentioned something like that. Oh, and Bob Iger did at Iger-Con, said it will be satisfied. That signals to me, thinking about it further, because I mentioned it on last week's show, that signals to me that the ending is going to be good, but it's going to be one that may be easily accepted for everybody, and it might just run right down the middle of trying to make sure that everybody's cool with this. So, to me, that really speaks to a Ben-demption, but perhaps not romantic finale between Rey and Kylo. But who knows? All right. A friend of the show, Matilda, writes, I smiled when you said you had a playlist for Reylo, and then was nice enough to go and share some YouTube videos of their playlist. I liked Endgame too. You may have heard these two and possibly seen the last video, but all in good fun. Keep up the good work. I so look forward to your podcast. Thank you so much, Matilda. I really appreciate it. And she was really nice. Read my book and gave me a really nice review on Goodreads, and I really did appreciate that. All right, Globe-Trotting Tiffers, been around for a while, writes this: prediction: 9 will be called the Ways of the Force. Kylo says this in The Force Awakens to Rey when he says, I can show you the ways of the Force. Notice he doesn't say, I can show you the ways of the dark side. True. This could This could tie in nicely to explore the ways of the Force, hello Grey Jedi, and show the different aspects and how to achieve a balance. I also like Spark of Hope. As always, thank you for the wonderful podcast. I love it when your passion shows in your voice and you go up a few octaves. Always entertaining and great to listen to. I'm reading your book, liking it so far. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, and you know what? For those that haven't read the book yet, I'll save that, and actually I'm going to go ahead and make a little note here. I put together a little promotion, something I haven't done yet at the end of the podcast that I hope you'll stick around for. I want to make a comment about the book for those that haven't read it yet. And just going to make a little note. Did my note. Now we can move on. Friend of the show, Jennifer Oliver. Hey, John. Still loving every podcast. I look forward to it every Saturday. Any music that is basically Raylo is on my playlist, but lyric for lyric, my favorite is Flares by The Script. It's one song that works for Ben to Ray and vice versa. And yes, Raylo is Endgame. Enjoying this year of wait with you and all our Raylo peeps. Have no prediction of when the episode 9 trailer will drop, but I feel like when it does, we are all just going to gape in amazement. I just don't know what exactly will be. I just don't know what exactly we will be amazed about, but it will amaze us all. Thank you so much, Jennifer, as always. Appreciate the comment. Alex Sheppers, talking about the title, says balance between worlds, especially if the worlds between worlds is present, connecting all the films together. Also, I think the reason why Finn and Rose weren't killed on Crate after Rose crashed Finn's ship is because Ben ordered his forces to refrain fire. This is demonstrated in TFA with Ben sparing Finn's life without empathy, in not wanting to pull the trigger on the Jakku villagers, hence why Ben went easy on Finn in the final duel of The Force Awakens. In essence, Ben has empathy with Finn's nature and probably wanted Finn to lead the First Order armies in place of someone like Hux. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. All right. Ambidextrous Penguin Productions. I laughed so many times during this, especially every time the song came up. And again, this goes back to, he's referencing episode 160. Just time to cheer me up after a rough day. I also had a thought. I don't know if you've covered the idea, as I only recently discovered your channel, but what if Poe inadvertently becomes the villain? I noticed that Admiral Holdo says we are the spark that will light the fire that will restore the Republic. However, Poe said we are the spark that will light the fire that will burn the First Order down. It would be quite a shock if Poe fell into a sort of Knight Templar trope. Thank you, Ambidextrix. I appreciate it. Let's see. My D. A male, probably reading that wrong, says, another good video. Thank you very much. Alex writes, just watched Solo yesterday after I finished the novelization. It really changed the way I look at the movie. I also find it one of those movies where the more I watch it, the more I like it. Yeah, I do too. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about watching it this evening. I had to record this podcast over the course of the day on Friday. I wanted to get it out first. Actually, I wanted to get it out earlier today, but I'm going to get it out tonight so it's available first thing Saturday morning. And I was going to watch Solo tonight after I finished the Phantom Menace, but because I wanted to get the podcast done, it's Phantom Menace tonight and then Solo tomorrow. And I agree. The more I watch Solo, the more I really do enjoy it. Let's see. Kelly Langley, in reference to Mike Zero, says he's a joke. I've come to learn that he's a clickbaiter, and if you look carefully at his comments on his channel, that's where you will find 99% of the haters spewing all kinds of ridiculous ideas, threats, and messages, and even to people who are not affected by the backlash of The Last Jedi. I mean, the guy posts 15 to 16 videos a day of just pure garbage and lies. He makes up these so-called spoilers to get people hyped, and he never recites where he got his information, and they never turn out to be right. It's sad that he's a part of the problem that is hurting the fandom and doesn't even realize it. There's nothing wrong with speculation. That's part of the fun, but just putting stuff out there and claiming it's true, he needs to stop. Quick comment on that. I'm not sure how much hurting of the fandom it really is making. I don't know if the perception equals the reality. And my point is, if you remove Twitter, and we'll just say YouTube, from the equation, I think all those people still exist. They just don't have a platform to give their opinion out, and we don't have to see it. They just talk amongst their friends. So it's kind of a weird way to promote a little bit of, and I do this for myself, a little bit of personal responsibility in, avoiding that stuff and not taking it so personal, which is why I partly shared that tweet with you, because I don't really want to do that again. Like I said, I was feeling salty and felt like responding because the tweet was so ridiculous, but that's not usually in my nature to go and do stuff like that. All right, Miss Suki 777, friend of the show, says this. Can't wait to hear the collaboration with Girls with Sabers. Was listening to their live chat tonight. Yeah, if you haven't gone and checked that out, they've got it up now. You can go and check out Girls with Sabers. I really had a great time with that. Black-Eyed Lily. Another friend of the show. I feel that J.J. Abrams' comment of hoping the fans will be satisfied with Episode 9 bodes well for Ben Demption. Just my opinion, but the tragedy of Kylo and Ben's death after he's had so much suffering in his life would not feel very satisfying. It's true. Yes, he still needs atonement, but the story can accomplish that in so many ways that don't require his death. And the loss of Rey's other half, who is the ideal person to provide her with the belongings that she seeks. Thank you for the comment. Jenny Reed says, I love reliving the magic of the TFA trailer with every episode, mentioning WGS, Girls with Sabers. Woo! Thank you. Rupert Natman says, not sure about Gray Jedi. Such a lifeless color. As Ian Dury sang, every bit of clothing ought to make you pretty. You can cut the clothing. Gray is such a pity. The Episode 9 title has to draw from the fundamental themes of the saga without using the words Force or Jedi already taken by 7 and 8. Bit of a tall order. Maybe something involving the darkness and the light. I'm starting to lean towards something of the past. Something with the past in it, right? Not shards. Do not like that word. Yeah, shards doesn't work for me, and it's already been used. All right, in that fan film. Tracy L. I'll be very satisfied if Reylo is the endgame. Ben Demption occurs, and Ben Solo goes off to live his life with Rey, setting up a new type of Jedi Order or doing something productive to help bring peace to the galaxy. There was a leak that came out later today after I started recording, but somebody had posted some. It was a bunch of 4chan stuff, so I don't put a lot of stock in it. But they had said that there was no new romance in the new movie in Episode 9. But they do. The only thing that hinted towards a romance or was a romance was that Rose and Finn became closer, and that was it. And so there was no romance between Rey and Kylo or Ben. But it's funny because earlier in the day there was another 4chan that said that Rey and Kylo kissed. So again, this is about the time when people start making stuff up because everybody's so starved for information. Tracy L writes again, thank you for calling out Mike Zero. He makes up fake clickbait theories and acts like it's all true. And I again, that rules of engagement kind of situation. It's all just such lies, and I don't feel bad for talking about it. And I think, I don't think people should dwell on it, but it's so unfortunate. And he's making money off it. That's why he makes so many videos. Those videos get so many hits. He's got the YouTube algorithm down, and so, there's advertising that runs. He makes a lot of money off those videos, and it's really sad. But being a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, you can only sustain that for so long. You do the right thing and you win every time, and he's not doing the right thing. So I think eventually it's going to come back around and bite him. The Color of Caramel again wrote, this is a newer comment. Actually, it's a smart choice to hold off on marketing for 9, simply because I'm sure the marketing and media department at Lucasfilm is aware of the backlash from The Last Jedi and have been for some time. Besides, I'm sure from Lucasfilm will make an appearance at Star Wars Celebration to say something, but it's a 50-50 chance. You will see a teaser. It's possible there won't be an official trailer until September, but you might get a little at Star Wars Celebration. Might. I would be shocked. At this point, people would riot at Celebration if there wasn't something. And there's already been semi-confirmation that the trailer or a teaser will be attached to Avengers Endgame, and it would just be stupid not to. So I'm pretty much positive that there's going to be footage at a teaser trailer at Celebration. It'll go teaser, behind the scenes in the summer, and then full trailer in September or October. And I'm going to disagree a little bit, holding off on the marketing because of the backlash. I don't think that's the reason why. I think it's because Disney and Lucasfilm know that Star Wars works when they starve the fandom for a while. You can't argue with the numbers of The Last Jedi and the passion behind it. And the marketing people, they look at the actual numbers based off of the frustration, and they know what I said a moment ago, and that is perception doesn't always equal reality. If you take YouTube and Twitter off the table, we're not having this lengthy discussion. You have to go, and what I mean is you have to go find the outrage. Right now, you don't have to find the outrage. Right now, you go and you type in The Last Jedi on Twitter, you're going to see a bunch of crap. You go on YouTube, and the algorithm spits out Star Wars videos, you're going to see a bunch of crap. But if you remove that, you're not going to see that. You'd have to go searching for it. So I think it's way less about the backlash, because honestly, what good does that do? So let me argue it this way. And I don't want to be combative on this, but I think it's a relevant point. If there is a lot of backlash to The Last Jedi, then I think the argument would be you would have started promoting it, the episode 9 already to get people to stop talking about The Last Jedi. The longer you go without giving the fandom anything to chew on, the more they're going to keep talking about The Last Jedi. All right. Let's go to Cortex Zero. I was listening to the show and I heard you mention my comment, LOL, that was unexpected. I agree with you. If they wait until Celebration for the title, that's a mistake, but my theory is similar to what you mentioned. I think it's because it may be a bit revealing and they're saving it for that reason, and if so, I'm okay with it as long as it has an impact. Just wanted to put this out there. I'm really sick of people complaining about The Last Jedi instead of focusing on the future of the franchise. Because my theory has been consistent since the film came out and received the backlash that they have had this story laid out in its entirety. It's been written and mostly everything has already been decided on. They knew episode 9 was going to be divisive because of the impact of 9 will have with its payoff. This divisiveness was part of their design to begin with. This is a multi-billion-dollar company with the ability to hire the greatest storytellers in the world, and we as fans have made it obvious as to what they like. We know this. They threw the bait out there and many people bit. They had a specific story in mind, and they wanted to tell. They knew the middle episode would divide the fan base, but they really believed that it was designed that way for the impact, and that 9 would bring a balance to the force that is the fan base. And I will, again, and this is not just pure promotion of my book, to me, it's relevant to talk this way, to bring it up because it fits to what he's talking about. I'm in the last act of the follow-up to Embark, and I'm seriously considering making some fairly bold moves that I wasn't going to make originally. I know how the book ends, and I know what's going to happen in the third book. So I've got a level of confidence that people are going to read the third book based off of the events that happened in the second book. Spoilers. I won't give any spoilers for those that are enjoying the book. But I'm thinking about making some bold choices in this second book because I kind of want to take a risk. So I can totally understand what Cortex Zero is saying, and I do agree quite a bit. You need struggle or you don't grow. It's just true. You have to struggle or you don't grow. It's part of life. We, in life, we challenge ourselves. You look at the individuals that have multi-jobs, and you look at the Chris Hardwicks or Ryan Seacrests, individuals like that who do all these different projects. I'm convinced that they do that because they have success in one, and then they go on and they challenge themselves again. And then they go and they challenge themselves again. Look, one of the reasons why I ended up writing the book and started really getting into it was because my full-time job was going so well. Ratings are good, and there's not a ton of pressure. It's a great job, and I'm like, you know what? I've got extra room in my life to challenge myself. So yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in what they said. All right, let's go to Mitzi K. Whoops. Hit the wrong window. I love girls with sabers. Yay. They're awesome, as are you. Oh, thank you. And one of them actually belongs to a Raylo Facebook group that I am in. Discovered them around Thanksgiving last year and binge listened while cooking and cleaning, and they made the time fly by. I didn't catch this episode, but I can't wait to hear it. They are very positive like you, and both shows are a nice change of pace from all the shows that are just nonstop whining and complaining. Thank you again for doing this show. I think 9 is going to make me happy at least. I was very encouraged they brought JJ back. It would have been happy to hire Ryan Johnson do it, but JJ is fine with me. Can't wait. Thank you so much. Let's see. Skydraphic, also a friend of the show. Well, you're all friends of the show. But those that have emailed a lot, I kind of designate friends of the show. We do this on my radio show. Friend of the show is somebody who listens to the show and likes it. A fan of the show is somebody who listens but then doesn't like the show. So you're technically all friends of the show. The listener feedback is the most fun thing within the show, and it's kind of unique because you really cover all of the comments. Thank you for that. Yeah, I tried to. They go on to say, you were on Girls with Sabers. Gasp. You got deep into Raylo. Ah! I love the idea of George Lucas being allowed to take part in 9 because I think as a father he should have the right to end it. But yeah, not to fix anything, but to add the final touch. Yeah, there was a rumor that came out, and we talked about that George Lucas was being brought in to help with Episode 9, and I don't buy it. But let's see. Stephanie S. says, I really think that Episode 9 should be called Balance of the Force. Thank you, Stephanie. Chris Ross says, I noticed when I went back to the teaser trailer for TFA where Kylo was stalking through the woods wearing his helmet, that Snoke's voice is saying that it could be, what could be either he's the dark side and the light, or it could be use the dark side and the light. Interesting. As a matter of fact, is this the clip?
There has been an awakening.
No, it's the other one. I don't have the other one.
Have you felt it?
No, he says, I'm 99% sure he says the dark side and the light. Okay? I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. All right, sorry. Lost my train of thought. All right. Thank you though, Chris, for the comment. I appreciate it. Kalela? Let's see. Kalela. Yeah, Kalela 13 says, thank you for your sense of humor. Thank you for laughing at me. Let's see. I just watched the podcast you did with Girls with Saber, and I have to say I had a blast. Great content and beautifully delivered by the three of you with hilarious moments. The interrogation blind date reference was my favorite. Thank you for accepting their invitation. It was a hit. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Friend of the show, Dylan, writes, looking at the Star Wars movies as historical documents is something I've always done as well, and it's a great way to describe it. The that's just what happened mentality is a great way to go about looking at these movies, and I believe that's at least part of the reason why I never had any problem with accepting them and loving them. On a different note, some of the listener feedback this week about Luke got me thinking more about his arc in The Last Jedi and why so many people are disappointed with how lame, doing that thing with my fingers, he was depicted. I think the way he went out was nothing short of badass. Then it hit me today while a major theme of The Last Jedi is failure, and basically all three main plot lines end in failure, Luke, on the other hand, ultimately succeeds in confronting Ben and allowing the Resistance to escape. In a way, he's the only character in the movie who does succeed in the end. A new perspective on the movie hit me suddenly, and I think it makes Luke a great character. His great character makes Luke's character even more badass. Have a great week for a reason, Dylan. I agree. Thank you for that, Dylan, as always. Kyle Bookout says, another great episode. I don't know how much longer I can go without some real news. What's your favorite possible titles? Didn't expect you to read my comment last week. LOL. Gave me a heart attack when you said my name. My name comes from a Bruce Springsteen song, Reason to Believe. Check it out. It's a weepy. I don't really have a favorite. I don't like the ones that are out there I don't particularly care for. I think it's not going to be anything that anybody's guessing. I think if it was going to be Balance of the Force or something that we've already been guessed, they would have put it out already. I think there's something to it. I really do. Or possibility, because Celebration is so long, they open Celebration with the title announcement heading into Friday and the teaser trailer dropping. Just my 2 cents. All right, what else we got here? I think this is the last one. Just came today. Bonnie Fisher, one of the first people to read my book and get back to me. I so appreciated that. I saw there was a Star Wars Episode 9 film show at the Disney shareholders meeting. I hope you give your fans your input on what the scenes mean. All I saw was Kylo still has the charred remains of the Vader mask. Ugh! Will he truly finish what Vader started? And by the way, what did Vader start? Balance of the Force, maybe? Please! ! Bonnie. And I covered that all at the start of the show, and I don't know. I really think that's open to interpretation. Whether or not, what that finish what you started actually is. I mean, it really comes down to kind of what does Kylo consider, what is his idea of what Vader finished before he started. And it's another thing that I'd love to hear from you for next week's episode 162. What do you think Kylo was talking about when he said, I'm going to finish what you started? Again, talkshownerd@gmail.com, or leave a comment on YouTube. All right, so I do have a little promotion here, a little piece I put together for my book. Before I do that, I want to thank everybody who has purchased the book. And you might be wondering, I keep promoting it on the show. Why do you do that? It's one of the most effective ways to promote the show is through this. And the show is growing every single week, so we're getting new listeners to the show. So for those that are enjoying the show and haven't purchased the book, I hope they will for themselves or for somebody else. And for those that have, again, thank you so much, and thank you for putting up with listening to me talk about it every single week. I'm having an absolute blast writing the sequel. Cannot wait to get it done. And you'll hear some details here in this little promotion that I have before we close the show out this week. But I got the artist hard at work right now on the cover. Can't wait to share it with everybody. So we'll say officially goodbye here in just a moment. But please take a couple of minutes here and give this a listen. Embark, the science fiction space opera written by Jon Justice, hey, that's me, is available right now at Amazon.com if you search for Embark and Jon, Jon Justice, and a special promotion running this weekend. The lowest price possible for all the formats, 99 cents for the ebook. Paperback is $11.99, and the audiobook with the purchase of the ebook is only $7.49. Now, here's all the details about the book. For Earth, the end is near. Only a reluctant hero and the girl he loves have the power to save humanity's future. It's the not-so-distant future, and car culture is replaced by air and space flight, made possible by two of Earth's largest corporations. Flight mechanic Taft Guardia spends his free time racing through the skies with his three best friends and the girl he longs to be with, headstrong Keith Amaro. With the planet on the brink of an industrial apocalypse, a powerful and ruthless corporate madman, Sint Argum, moves to exploit the disaster with his covertly created military. When Taft, Keitha, and their friends uncover a shocking secret, Sint Argum will stop at nothing to find them. Time on Earth is running out, but with the help of a ragtag group of young pilots, they'll fight for humanity's future and survival among the stars. Right now you can get Embark this weekend only for its lowest price possible of 99 cents for the ebook and $11.99 for the paperback. Now here's the deal. The 99-cent ebook is going to get you the audiobook narrated by Jon Justice, hey, that's me, for only $7.49. The ebook is free with the purchase of the paperback. And again, it's its lowest price ever at $11.99. Get the book Embark and find out how it all started before the follow-up to Embark is released in the next few months. Join the mailing list for exclusive information. And it's just for the book, sometimes for podcast stuff. Don't worry, I'm not going to put you on any spam email. Talkshownerd@gmail.com and just say, hey, add me to the mailing list. And you'll find out when the book will be released, opportunities to get pre-orders, samples of the book before it's released, looks at the artwork before anybody else gets to see it, and the title as well. Just email me if you're not already on it, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Go to Amazon.com. Look for Embark, EMBARK, and search for Embark, Jon, Jon Justice. And again, 99 cents for the ebook, $11.99 for the paperback, and the audiobook with the purchase of the ebook is only $7.49, $24 regular price. And again, thank you for everybody who has supported the podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, go and pick up a copy of the book for yourself or for somebody else. And that wraps it up for this week. We'll be back again next week. Can't wait to hear your feedback to this week's show. And I really do hope you guys all just have a fantastic weekend and week. May the Force be with you always. And now here's Ben Kenobi, and he's pretty much going to go ahead and tell you the same thing.
The Force will be with you. Always.
My nerd world.
Actually, I said, may the Force be with you, and then Obi-Wan follows it up and tells you that it's actually going to be, so you don't have to worry about it. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.